How's it going? Dave from Comic Book Investments. So, what do I do for a living? People want in the comments have all asked like, "Oh, what do you do? How do you have all these books and how do you afford all this and is, this lifestyle and stuff?" It's funny. Some people like guess and they're like, "Oh, you must be some like app developing tech guy and all this kind of stuff." And what I do though is I'm a comic book dealer. And what a comic book dealer is so you have a collector, right? Someone that buys comics and they hold on to them because they want the comic. Maybe they buy for investment purposes, or maybe they buy because they love the covers, the stories, the character, all that stuff. That's a collector. And then a collector usually has it anywhere. Most of the time, collectors hold them for 5 years, 10 years. Maybe they hold all the way till they die or till they retire. That's usually what a collector does, is they don't really part with their comics very often. The only time they part with them is either to trade for another one, to sell because they don't really care about that comic as much and they'd rather have the money for something else, or they unload all their comics because they're done with the hobby and it's time to move on, whatever. Or there's a big expense coming up, and they need the cash. I'm basically the same thing, but the difference between a dealer is I don't hold them for 5 or 10, 20 years. I hold them for as soon as a customer I have comes and buys them. So I buy comics constantly, but then they're all for sale. And I don't hold any back. The only time I hold something back is if I think it's going to be more valuable to hold it than it is to sell it today. So that is basically what a dealer is. I just go around. I have a massive customer base. I've been doing this full time as my full time job for 12, 13 years, somewhere around there. And I just find different collections from customers, from other people, word of mouth, do different like online auctions. Just anywhere I can find them, I will find them and I get them. And in the beginning, it was hard. It takes a long time. I didn't just start off, like this from day one. It took me 12 years to build up what I have now. And I've amassed basically like a collection, but it's all for sale. And I have amassed a massive amount of customers. And so they come back to me because usually when you treat someone really well and you give them what they want and they have an easy transaction, they're going to come back to you. And so that's why I've had just amazing customers, amazing interactions. I meet a bunch of cool people. I go to different conventions, things like that. And yeah, so I've been doing this full time. This is my job. This is what I do. I find comics and I'm basically the middleman. I have customers that have want lists and a lot of people are like, well, why don't they just find it themselves? There's a lot of customers that like buy higher end books don't have the time. They don't have the time to go to different conventions, look at every auction and all this kind of stuff. They have lives and they're willing to pay basically a small fee for me to facilitate this for them. And I even have customers that have me bid on auctions for them. They're just like, look, I don't have the time. These are the books I want. These are the price I'm really go. I don't have time to figure all that out. So if you get them, great. I will pay you a small fee for the difference. And yeah. And so that's what I do. And people also want to know my insight because they know I'm in the industry and like, oh, is this a good deal? Is this a bad deal? I don't want to pay too much, all this kind of stuff. Can you find it cheaper? And so that's what I do. So I'm a comic book dealer. That's what I do every day. And this is a job. This is not like a hobby job or a part-time job. Like, oh, I do it on the side. I get up at 6 o'clock, 6 a.m. every day. I usually start work around 6:30, 6:45, and I work all day long. I work all day, and then I also work on weekends as well. It's me and my brother. We've been doing it, like I said, 12, 13 years. We have a full-time employee, and we're also building a website, and we have 3 web developers that are working for us to build that website because we're focusing very much on that website. And we've also had other employees come and go throughout the years. But yeah, it's a legit full-time hard job, looking at like 60, 70 hours a week every day. And it's definitely tough. And there's a lot of times you don't know when the money's going to come in. And right now it's really nice. The comic industry is just booming like crazy. And so it's definitely nice. Compared to the last 2 years, we're not very good. comparative to all the other years. But yeah, so it's like, this is what I do. I'm incorporated. I have all the legal stuff. I have a tax guy. I have all that stuff. So it's like a legit thing. This is what I do full time. How I got into it, my dad was a dealer in the 80s and 90s, like a big time dealer, like one of the biggest. He got into it because he loved comics as a kid. He started a construction business, which gave him some money, and he'd just buy comics. And he had a room full of comics. And then he met a guy at a convention that did restoration, and my dad was like, "Hey, can you teach me?" So the guy taught him how to restore books, because in the 80s and 90s, restoration was a lot bigger than it is now. Now it's like a no-no. No one restores books. And so he opened up a business restoring books, and then he would also restore them, and then he had other books he would sell, and then he just amassed a customer base. This is before the internet, and he would send out a catalog every year. And so I grew up in this industry, and I loved helping him. Of all the kids he had, I loved working for him, and I'd work for comics. Basically, I'd work anytime I got the opportunity, I'd go work for him, and he'd pay me in comics, basically. And so I amassed almost an entire Hulk run, except number 1 and 2, and I might have had 3, I can't remember. I also had an FF12, Spider-Man 6. I also had a complete run of Turtles. And I had a bunch of other random books. I had 2 Hulk 181s. One was a 9.4 when CGC was brand new, and one was like a low grade. Might have even been coverless. And I also had Tales of the Astonished 59 up. So I liked the Hulk. So I collected the Hulk. I also had Spider-Man 300, and I liked Gambit. So I had a couple X-Men 266. And so I'd work for him, and that's what I did. I just amassed like this massive collection. And then my dad retired when I was in high school and sold his business. And then, I did my own thing. And then when we started this thing, I sold all my comics to start this business. And I was working for a doctor as a medical biller at the same time as I was trying to do this. And I did that for like 3 to 6 months. And then after that, I made just enough to pay my bills. And I think me and my brother, we figured out exactly the bare minimum we needed so I could go full time. And it was around like $1,500 a month is what we made. So we were making about $1,500 a month, and just kept on doing it. And yeah, so that's what I do for a living. I sell comic books. It's great. I love it. I'm one of the few people that can say I love my job. A lot of my friends get mad, but I do. I really do. I love talking to people. I get really excited when I get books in I've never seen before. I rarely see. It doesn't even matter their value. I get excited when I see like a $5 book. I'm like, oh, that brings me back, or that's really cool. I love talking shop with different customers, different friends. I just really enjoy it. It's obviously work. There's a lot of aspects that I do not like, and it definitely takes a toll. So yeah, I created this YouTube channel as just kind of like an outlet to talk more about comics and finances, because I love numbers and finances. So that's why I kind of created this channel. But yeah, that's what I do for a living. So now everyone knows. I know some people already knew, but a lot of people didn't. And so now you know what I do and what a comic book dealer does and is. So yeah, and like always, check out my website down below. There's a link. It's collectorscomics.com. And you can also check out my music. I'm on all the streaming platforms. Music is a passion of mine, what I like to do when I'm not working. And as always, if you haven't subscribed, please think about subscribing. I really appreciate it. It would help support this channel. And if you are subscribed, thank you very much. Feel free to leave a like and a comment below. Maybe leave a comment of what you thought I did if you didn't know I was a comic book dealer, like what you thought my job was, like how you thought I afforded all these comics that I'm showing and all this knowledge that I have. So it'll be really interesting. I want to see what people think I did. All right. Thank you.